Hey guys, welcome to the Brownie Post Game YouTube channel. How's it going, Browns fans? Thank you for making us, I think we were at 2,000 subscribers, really
Yeah,
close.
we hit 2,000 today.
We did, all right, yay, 2,000. So I'm your host, Mike, at Mike Killey, and with me as always is my father at Dan_Killey. Dan, Dad,
Hi.
how's it going?
Hi, guys.
So today, we've got a special episode in store where we're looking at the past and then we're looking at the present and then some things into the future. So
Right.
we're analyzed the last 4 games of last season in which we went 3-1. And we're going to give you 5 key factors that we found through through the in-depth analysis of watching those games. Then we're going to look at really where we are today and what we're going to be looking very closely at in the preseason. So 5 factors about the preseason, which should be important, should give us some telltale signs of what we should expect going into the regular season. So let's
Right.
start off with last year. So Dad, when you looked at the last 4 games, what was the first thing that stood out to you in terms of something that just made sense?
Well, like you said, there's 5 things that I looked at, and the first thing that hit me was that we were doing pretty well. We won 3 games and we lost the last game, so we were on a streak. We beat Carolina, we beat Denver, we beat Cincinnati, and we had every expectation of beating Baltimore and going 8-7-1. Which, if you told me that at the beginning of the season, I would have told you you're absolutely nuts. But the more Baker played, the more he made plays, the more the play calling changed and whatnot. It was just exciting to watch the game. So I thought it'd be interesting to go back now that the draft is over. We're designing players, bringing in walk-ons, that type of thing. Mini camps are going to start, and then you got the preseason coming up. What should we be looking for once we get past preseason in that opening game against the Titans? Um, and hopefully the consistency that we started to show at the end of last year with these key factors that I'm going to talk about. And there's probably another 5 that we could talk about. There's probably some that our subscribers can comment back to us, say, hey, why didn't you look at this, or that type of thing. So
Sure.
it's not meant to be the end all be all, but I think these are the typical things. As a fan, you're sitting there in the stand and you're watching on TV, and you hear the experts on TV commenting on. So I thought I'd run them down for you, as opposed what we did last year. First thing I looked at was a balanced attack. Did we have a balanced attack in those games? And in the 3 wins, we did. We were 50-50 between the pass and the run.
That's actually surprising. I would have thought we would have been a little bit more pass heavy towards of
Right.
what it seemed. But so you're saying that we had a 100% balanced attack between the amount of run plays to pass plays?
Right, right. And it was pretty, like I said, pretty balanced in terms of numbers, which is ideal. That's what you want. You don't want it heavily skewed one way or the other, because your teams, react to that. In the loss to Baltimore, though, um, passing became more critical, and we had twice as many, 3 times as many passes in that game as we did, because we fell behind early. We were, I think it was 20-7 at one point, so we had to play catch up, and we got close. We rallied toward the end, and we fell short, 26 to 24.
So
So
let's talk about that Ravens game for a second. And I think that's a really interesting point. And this is something that I think the Ravens are going to have a difficult time with throughout the season is if they get behind. So let's flip it, on its head. If the
mhm,
Browns were up 20-7 or 20-3, whatever, that forces the Ravens into a situation where they have to be pass first with Lamar Jackson,
right,
who
right,
is sub 60% completion percentage. They don't have superstars, wide receivers. They certainly don't have a overwhelmingly frightening running game either. On top
right,
of that, besides like the option play, so
right.
are we looking at like another Washington Redskins RG3 situation with them, or is Lamar actually going to be able to, is he going to be able to throw 30 times in a half if he has to?
Right.
That's a big question, and I'm glad we're not the ones who have to ask that question of our quarterback for the first time
Yeah.
in a while.
Looking back at that game, I didn't look at the game, play by play, but the loss was more from the standpoint of turnovers, which is the second item that I'm going to take a look at. We had three wins, and in those three wins, our turnovers were about equal. So we turned it over as many times as the other team did. But in the loss to Baltimore, we had 3 turnovers versus 1 turnover for them, and all 3 were critical interceptions thrown by Baker.
Yeah.
So that was really the key with that. So the next one I was taking a look at were third down conversions. How did we do? And we're just under 50% in all 4 games, which I think if you look at the really elite teams, they convert on third downs over 50% of the time. So sure. That's a key, statistics. The other one is what is the defense doing as far as third down conversions? And in those 4 games, we held our opponents to like 26% as far as third down conversions. So our defense played really well, kept us in the game in all 4 of the games. So the next one was penalties. And if you remember the 2017 season, it was penalty after penalty after penalty. And then it started to continue even in the early part, in 2018, the first couple of games, the penalties were just killing us, and special teams especially. I mean, every time we punted, there was a holding.
It was really frustrating.
Block in the back. I mean, it was just, they played horribly. So that's an area that we have to improve upon. We averaged 6 penalties per game in those last 4 games, which I guess it's okay, maybe a little bit on the high side. It'd be interesting to look at what the league statistical average is for penalties. Yeah. But none of the games hinged on a penalty. It wasn't a critical situation. The other thing I looked at was kicking. Our field goal kicking was pretty good. We made 7 out of 8 field goals in those 4 games. We only missed 1. Mm-hmm. However, we missed a couple of extra points, and you never like to miss extra points. That's not very good, and that's the reason why they went after Austin Siebert, the kicker, because he's very consistent. He's got a good leg, strong leg, and he's going to be strong competition for Joseph, I think, in the preseason to show that he can be a kicker for us. So those are the 5 things that I took a look at. And those are the types of things that we can analyze even in the preseason. And as we get ready for the Titans, which is the first game, those are the types of things that we can certainly analyze after the fact. Another couple of things I jotted down, which I didn't analyze, but I think at some point they play a critical component. And that's, what do we do on first down? Do we pass the ball a lot on first down? Do we run the ball? Running the ball on first down, getting 2 yards, you're automatically in a passing situation. And that, prior to last year, prior to Baker, that was our MO. We would run the ball 2 yards, 3 yards, and then we'd have to pass it. Maybe we'd make a completion, maybe not. Then we certainly have to pass on third down. So so that's something to look at.
Well, that's actually interesting too. If there's an electronic game that used to be at bars when I was in college, where you could actually you got points if you picked what they were doing in any real time in the game. So it was like pass left, short, run middle, run right, run left. And if you stop somebody on first down and you make it a 2nd and 8 or a 2nd and 10 because you get stuffed, you're automatically putting yourself in a position where you're saying like, all right, am I going to try to go for the first down here and try to eat up some decent yardage? Or am I going to go right back at what just failed
Right.
And so if you're a defensive coordinator, if I'm a guy who can sit at a bar and analyze that play, where they are in the field, and say, this is probably going to be a short pass, whatever direction, but short pass or screen or something like that, you can build your defense. You can stack your defense to be able to handle those situations. It makes it predictable, right?
Right. Right.
Now,
And that's what we don't want to be, is predictable. So
right.
I'm always encouraged when we start off a game and we start throwing the ball right away. First down, take a deep shot, that type of thing, as opposed to hand the ball off, run for 3 yards, and then put ourselves in a second and long, third and long, that type of thing.
Sure.
Another thing to look at is passes over 10 yards. Are we trying to go down the field? Are we just doing little dinks and dongs on the, out of the backfield and to the sidelines and so forth? Are we respecting their defense too much that especially with the two receivers that we're going to have, Odell Beckham on one side and Landry on the other, you gotta put pressure on them. And so a key factor will be, how many long passes do we attempt and how many do we complete? Also look at the defense. How are they playing? Quarterback sacks, pressure on the quarterback. Did they knock them down? Key missed tackles by the defense that should have been stopped short of a first down. They made the first down, that type of thing. And starting field position, I think, for both teams. If we're giving them the ball at the 40-yard line, it's not great in terms of whether it's a turnover or what it is, bad special teams, and they let the runner get too far down the field. But where we start out with the ball and where our opponents start out with the ball are key factors, I think, in a game that we can analyze, obviously after the fact. Can't replay the game, but we can certainly say that these were the key critical factors that happened during the game, that had they gone one way or the other, or they went in our favor and that led to a win, they didn't go in our favor, and we lost, that type of thing.
Right.
So that's basically, I think, how we'll approach the game, and certainly take suggestions from our subscribers out there.
Yeah, and I think, looking back to those 4 games, I'm surprised that we had a balanced attack 50-50. I would not have guessed that,
Right.
Having watched the whole season. And
well, Chubb was doing well, so he had to be respected, and Duke Johnson had to be respected. And with Baker hitting players, making pass play, he scored a lot of throwing touchdowns to break that record. Mm-hmm. So they had to respect his arm, and the play calling was great. They only got forced into that last game because Baker, and I didn't look at those interceptions. We could probably add those, to our analysis to show if they were tip balls or he threw them behind the receiver or whatever, or he got hit when he threw, that type of thing. But for him to throw 3 interceptions in one game, you can't expect to run away with the game. But we were in it up to the very end, so it was a good attempt, and by losing it gave us a little bit better position in the draft, I guess.
I think the other interesting thing, the third down conversion, so just under 50% third down conversions. That's difficult. You have to convert on third down,
right?
And it's interesting to see how, going back to those third downs, how penalties impacted where we were.
Right.
It felt, and I'm not looking at the actual stats, but it definitely felt last season that a significant amount of time we were putting ourselves behind the 8 ball to start off. So we'd kick off, or let's say we got a punt. There'd be holding on the punt return, so that would, even if they got to the 40-yard line, it'd knock us back because there's holding or illegal block in the back. Then, if you have a holding penalty or a false start or something like that, now it's 1st and 20, 1st and 15, which for a young team, Baker was impressive from his poise in that standpoint, not being overwhelmed by those moments. And that's another thing that was really impressive. Because it can be, when you have to get 10 yards to get a first down, that can, at some point in the game, that can be an overwhelming type of experience. And then you move them back 15 or 20, that can feel like you can't do it. It's impossible. But Baker, there was a couple plays where he stood there and he's like, I don't care if it's 3rd and 17, I'm going to throw 25 yards.
Right. And he completed a good percentage of those, at least it seemed that way. Yeah. And what I didn't look at was the 4-game losing streak that we were on just before we went 3-1 at the end. So we were doing a lot of things that weren't so good in those losses, one after another, even though, Baker was playing better and better. And, the games were, I don't think they were all that close. We should have won the Oakland game. That was based on a repositioning of the ball after we made the first down, and we would have run the clock out and we would have won the game.
Yep.
A kick in the first game in overtime against Pittsburgh, we could have won that game.
Make one kick.
Yeah, one kick, and another overtime we could have won it had that been the case.
The Tampa game that we were at.
Right. Yeah. Right. The guy makes what do you make, a 53 or a 60-yard?
I think it was a 60-yard kick. I remember sitting there. You and I were sitting there, and and the people around us in the Tampa Stadium were really nice. They could tell that we were pretty passionate. I actually lost my voice after that game because I was yelling, especially when Baker got hit in the head. I lost my mind at that moment, and I guess it was kind of annoying the people around. But I wasn't drinking or anything. It was just like a passion,
Right.
And I think they could feel it. The people were like, they could tell that we were getting screwed in a lot of the calls.
And I think at the end, when they couldn't win it in regulation, they thought they were going to lose in overtime.
Yep.
And we had a chance to do it.
When Peppers fumbled, he had the punt return. He brought back to the 50. It was I think he brought it back to the 50-yard line, or we're on their 45. It was like something. It was really close to midfield, and he fumbled. Right. And I think that was one of those things where Dorsey was like, "Hey, he had a great Denver game. I'm not going to take that away. That was his career game." But it's like at that point, I think it was a little bit. It was a little too late. Too little, too late. And Dorsey was like, "Hey, look, this guy's expendable." He, for all intents and purposes, cost us that game, amongst other things. But there are big moments in games, and that was a big moment. And to drop the ball midfield. And then
against a team that Tampa wasn't all that good, so we clearly had a chance to beat them. Even though it was a road game, it was hot.
It was wet.
Baker played okay, and the defense played. Kept us in the game, and obviously went to overtime. They missed a field goal to win it in regulation. Remember?
Yeah, and then we sat. I remember we sat there.
He missed the field goal.
We sat there and we're like, "Hey, if he kicks a 60-yard field goal to win the game, you guys have it.
Right.
You can have it." I mean,
and I never thought he would do that.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah, so
I didn't think you had a chance of making that. So I think so that actually is kind of a good segue into what I think we should be looking at in the preseason. What are the important things that we need to be looking at? And one of those was that I put down was special teams.
Right.
The return game. Who's going to be actually doing the returning for us? Who's going to win those jobs? And kicking.
Right.
Kicking. We're going to come out of preseason. It's not rare that you have multiple kickers, multiple punters coming in the preseason. Maybe punters, but kickers. They typically teams bring in. 2 kickers from time to time, especially if it's like, we're not completely sold on the guy. So that makes sense with Greg and Austin. So we're gonna have a clear winner there,
right?
Which is, again, it's also not a bad thing to have competition, right?
Right.
So that's good. In terms of the return game, I personally would prefer to see a guy like Callaway back there because he can catch the ball. He's paid to catch the ball. That's one of the things that scared me to death every time we got a punt return last year because I just felt like we were just going to take it right off the face mask,
right,
and lose all that we worked for on defense to create that transfer.
There's nothing worse than muffing a punt when you think you're going to get the ball in reasonable field position, and then you just give them a gift on the 30-yard line or something like that.
I personally would like to see Callaway returning it. I'd rather have a wide receiver than a defensive back and then a running back because those are the guys. So I'd like to see him do that. I know that he returned some stuff for us last year. I think punt returns are more critical in the NFL than kick returns. Kick returns, I'm the vast majority
are fewer and fewer because the guys can kick it into the end zone and you get the ball to 25-yard line. So you got to make 25 yards to break even on a kickoff, so more chances than not.
And how many times do we bring it out And even if it was short of the end zone where we had to return it anyway, and we didn't
Right.
get to the 25-yard, we didn't even get to
Right.
the 20-yard line. My brain was so used to having it be like, you got to get to the 20. But if
Right.
you got to get to the 25, as a coach, I'd be like, hey guys, unless you see a hole that is open, like the parting of the Red Sea,
Or if you're
pound the
close to the
ball.
goal line when you catch the ball, if you're 5 yards or 10 yards deep,
Let
there's
it
no
go.
way in hell you should be taking that ball out of
Not
there.
only that, but the injury that you could get. I mean, it's
Sure.
potentially get injured, and even the guys blocking for you potentially getting. That happens too. Guys knocking into each other and all that kind of stuff. Be safe. Start on give Baker the 25-yard line, please. Don't
Right.
get because let's say we do. Let's say we get it past the 20. Let's say we get to the 30-yard line, and there's a penalty.
Right.
Right. So like, don't take that whole part of the equation out of it, and
Right.
be way more conservative on kick return. But anyway, on the punt return, Callaway's my guy who I'd prefer to be back there. We shall see. Second year. So I think the reason why it makes sense too is being that he's got Odell and Jarvis, who are going to be obviously the number 1 and 2 targets in there. So he's
Right.
going to have to find a little bit of space for him to be able to shine. And I think that's one
Right.
place that we definitely going to need. I'd like to see that.
Right. I agree. I agree with you.
Offense and defensive philosophies with the new coaches, with Monken and with Wilkes. I am excited about Todd Monken. I am excited about him because if you look at the first couple games that he with Fitzmagic as the quarterback in Tampa, they lit it up to the point where it was shocking everybody in the league. I mean, he was putting up record like
Right.
Pat Mahomes numbers
Right.
with Ryan Fitzpatrick, who I'm not saying that he's a terrible quarterback, but he's
No,
not
he
somebody
could.
that you think you're going to make the Hall of Fame.
No, Fitzpatrick always struck me as a guy that had decent, abilities, talent, and when he was hot, he was hot,
Yeah.
and he would light it up. But when he was bad, he was very bad. He threw a lot of interceptions, and that's what put him on the bench after that great start.
Yeah.
He started throwing interception. And they said, "Okay, let's go back to Winston because we're paying him all these big bucks. He's sitting on the bench." And now that Fitzpatrick has come back to earth, let's put the star back
Well,
in.
I think a couple things. I think that he was outperforming his own abilities.
Right.
I think that the rest of the league had enough time to get some tape
Right.
and figure out what they were doing and be able to adjust to it. And but now if you can take that same offensive philosophy that he was doing, which was really a lot of the same methodologies are really where the league is going with the whole air raid offense anyway.
Right.
If you put that same thing with a team that is arguably significantly more talented than Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in terms of running, I would take Odell Jarvis over Mike Evans and Deshaun Watts. I get Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
Any day of the week. I think anybody would at this point in their careers at least. So it's going to be exciting to see what we do. It's also going to be really exciting having a mind like Todd Monken, and then with Freddie Kitchens as well, having
Right.
two really strong offensive minds in that same place. It's going to be exciting to see what they do. I don't think in the preseason, I don't think they're gonna open up the offense. I don't think they're gonna show us everything that they have cooking. But
Right.
from a consistency standpoint of where they're gonna go and what the general philosophy is, that's what I'm interested in. Same thing on the defensive side. With all the stuff that has come out with Greg Williams about really how he was very restrictive on the younger players, having them kind of play more towards a recipe than it was to allow them to go nuts with their talent. It's going to be interesting to see if Wilkes allows them to play a little bit more free and build upon the experience that they have. Guys like Garrett, Denzel Ward, some of the safeties, see what they do with that. I don't think we're going to have a safety playing 30, 35 yards back.
Well, let's hope not. Let's hope that he plays up, and he's a safety that has to make tackles if they get through get into the secondary.
Yeah.
And he's obviously get protection over the top for the corners. And I think hopefully one of these guys will work out as our safety.
Another thing that's really going to be an interesting thing to watch, and this is something that we're going to be able to tell in preseason. This is something that scared me last preseason because I noticed this right away, was discipline and consistency. And where
Right.
that comes down to the discipline on from a penalty standpoint. I felt like we were an incredibly undisciplined team under Hugh Jackson for the entire time he was here, and it's really, really showed in preseason last year. I think I put a post up on Reddit being like, this is what I'm most afraid of is penalties on in general, but specifically with special teams. And that was the theme throughout the entire season. Maybe not to the very end. We might have cleaned up some stuff when Freddie Kitchens took over the offense, but there was incredible inconsistency and lack of discipline. And I think that is something that the new coaching staff is going to be able to instill. Because really, that's what it comes down to. You look at a team like New England in the Super Bowl, in the playoffs, man, they almost didn't have any penalties.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
to
They can
watch
be
it's
killers, the drive killers, game killers.
sure,
Uh, you know, just your old philosophy as far as what you can do and what you can't do. If you're starting off at 1st and 15 or 1st and 20, that it changes the whole game plan. I mean, 1st and 10 is a lot different than 1st and 20.
sure.
So,
It's
um,
it's about it's about how mentally prepared you are at any given
right.
moment. That was one of the things I loved about Joe Thomas. If Joe Thomas got a false start, it was a shock, and I every time I was like, that was Kaiser's fault. Like I mean, there's to blame him for that. They're very rare that he got holding penalties, false starts, illegal blocks in any way. I mean, he was so consistent at that level. I mean, a Hall of Fame guy, but I'd like to see a lot more consistency and discipline.
Yeah, and it's not just offense; it's defense too. Jumping off sides, uh,
Yeah,
holding penalties in the secondary, late hits out of bounds. I mean,
yeah,
just personal fouls that you're wondering what is the guy thinking? Why is he even close to hitting that guy? Hitting the quarterback late. The just terrible penalties to take. And if we can eliminate those or keep them to a minimum, certainly enhance our ability to try to win a game.
also, the chemistry between Baker and Odell is going to be an interesting thing to watch. I think the national media is going to be consumed with this storyline. I'm not as worried about it from the overall kind of perspective at a macro level. I want to see exactly how it works out on a micro level, and I want to see how. I mean, Odell's used to playing with Eli, who is especially this time of his career has been very inconsistent.
Right.
And I think Eli had a hard time feeding him.
Oh,
And
yeah, when they can double team him and you have nobody on the other side, they can't always double team Odell Beckham. They're going to have to respect Landry and Higgins and our tight ends.
sure,
So I mean, it's not going to be that easy. And you're right. It's going to be interesting to see how much Baker shares the wealth. Does
yeah.
he spread it around? Or does he try to go to force it to Odell because he's trying to feed his ego
Mhm.
and give him a touchdown or give him a reception? How long can he go before he gets his first catch in a game? That type of thing.
I expect the first target to be to Odell, and I don't
Yeah.
expect it to be a touchdown or a home run. I
Yeah.
expect it to be short slant out, 10
Right.
yard 10-yard curl, something like that. It'll be to Odell. That's what I predict, or he'll at least be looking at him pretty early. Because in the first couple games, the first two games, I mean, first game they might get two series, right?
Right.
You
Oh,
know,
you in preseason? Yeah.
that's all they're gonna
Preseason,
get.
they won't get much at all. If they play the entire first quarter, which they probably will, that'll get them, at least a couple of snaps,
Yeah,
possessions before they have to, get out of the game. And obviously, in the last game, they'll play a little bit more. And just got to keep your fingers crossed nobody gets hurt. I mean,
yeah.
that's going to be a killer. If somebody goes down in preseason, it can be an accident. It could be a bad hit. It can be guys just not in shape, pulls a hamstring or whatever, something that really puts him out, a high ankle sprain, something
Mhm.
like that. That's a real killer. And just keep our fingers crossed that they're in good condition and they get through the preseason. And you look forward to that Titans game. I like the fact that we're playing the Titans in the first game.
Yeah.
If memory serves me correct, I think we've always played well against the Titans for some reason or another. In fact, one of Johnny Manziel's best games that he played and he won was against Tennessee in Cleveland. He threw two 50-yard touchdowns against Tennessee.
Yeah.
So, and I think they picked up Tannehill, so they got him as their backup to Mariota. And it should be it's a great game. I'm glad we're not opening up against the Patriots or some other team like that.
Yeah.
This will be a good measure as to, are we ready, and are the guys playing well?
Right.
The point of that should be hopefully a win for us.
And I think if you look at Tennessee, the nice thing about Tennessee is they're like, at least the last couple of years, they've been that steady, consistent 9-7 team, right?
Right.
They're not necessarily a playoff team. They're not terrible either. So they're right kind of in the middle. It's not a gimme win. It's not like the Dolphins will be, or the Dolphins at the end of the season should be the only, probably the only, maybe Cincinnati as well, that you just automatically pencil.
Right.
I think most of the Browns fans, most of the betting universe and Vegas as well is going to give the Browns the favorite at home with the excitement for game one. But I don't think it's going to be a pushover game either. I think Tennessee's going to play us tough.
I just read the power rankings, of the 32 teams.
Yeah.
And the Tennessee is ranked just one above us. I think we're rated at 16. They're rated at 15. So we're right in the middle of the pack. They made some pretty good improvements, if memory serves me correct, about the draft and free agencies. So I think Tennessee has improved. So like you say, it's not going to be a pushover, but it's good. It's a good game to measure ourselves for.
And we'll have the 4 preseason games that we'll obviously be analyzing the Browns very closely. But I think it'll be we'll probably do some. We'll be watching Tennessee very closely in their final 2 preseason games as well, to kind of give us an idea, see if we can pick up on anything that we should be able to look at. The last thing that I wanted to also bring up as a key thing to look at in the preseason is how the performance of Kareem Hunt.
Right.
And, I think Kareem Hunt, if you take away Odell, and let's say that doesn't happen, I think the majority of Browns fans I think he would be the story.
Right.
Knowing that, 8
but
games,
a long story, because he's not going to play until the 8th or 9th game,
Right. But I think that the exciting thing will be in preseason. The thing to watch for Kareem is he is he going to be, from a fitness standpoint, is he going to be in shape to play? Is he going to keep himself in shape so he's ready to go? Because if you think about it, having an all-pro running back, arguably the best running back in the league other than maybe Saquon last year, but before that, arguably the best running back in the league for at least the last season. Let's say that.
He's a young guy.
He's a young guy. So being able to sit out 8 games, not get hit, not take the punishment, which our other running backs are going to take, which obviously provides the depth. But to have that, it reminds me of Percy Harvin in the Super Bowl. When he just came, when he was injured most of the year, and Seattle was who they brought him out. I mean, having that type of it's like a firecracker that you add to a team that's probably going to be a little tired by week 8. Everybody's tired. Right. To have that level of talent that's like, Madden rated, a 95 rated running back or whatever he is, adding that in fresh is going to be exciting too. So those are the key things that I think we should look out for. As I mentioned again, offensive, defensive philosophies with the coaches, the new coaches, consistency and discipline, the special teams, the run game, the kicker, chemistry between Baker and the receiver, specifically Baker and Odell, and then Kareem Hunt, and seeing what that does. So, guys, thank you very much. This has been kind of like one of our long form preseason shows. We still got several weeks away from preseason first game, so we're gonna have.
And give us your reaction. Write us some comments. Yeah. Let us know what you think. You agree? You disagree? Something we should add? Something we should take away? That type of thing. because it's all about, interacting with our subscribers. That's for sure.
Absolutely. We got 2,000 of you. So somebody out there, give us your thoughts. Let us know if you agree with us, you disagree. Also, guys, remember, at Homage, use promo code Brownie. I'm going to put a link below as well. I'll pin the link to the top there so you guys can see that. 15% off, plus they got some pretty cool Brown stuff that's going on there. And I have gotten some insider information from Homage. They are bringing back those sweet starter jackets that they had last year. And we may be able to work something out where we actually get one to give one away to the community. I'm working on that arrangement as well.
Great.
So guys, thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you again for the subscribers. Thank you to Homage for the affiliate partnership we have with them. Leave us comments, give us a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do all that kind of good stuff. So guys, thank you very much. Dad, any final words?
Nope. Go Brownies.
Go Browns.
Here we go, Brownies! Here we go! Woo, woo.